Hello viewers, I'm Red2006 and I'm very pleased to have you join me for the latest episode of A Link to the Past Randomizer. As a quick recap, in the last episode, I defeated Vitreous in the Misery Mire and acquired the last crystal. I finally gave Sahasrara his pendant back, and I began storming Ganon's tower. It's time for the finale and the ultimate showdown. Okay, we're back at Ganon's tower to go through the second part. I've included the item montage before this, and to be honest there wasn't really much, so if you did choose to skip it, you aren't missing out. And again, not much. There's the Ether Medallion, at long last. The Cane of Samaria is needed to get through there. And this room is slightly diabolical. Now the game is probably well aware of the fact. I thought I got grabbed by the Wallmaster. Did one of the tiles knock me out of its reach? But yes, the game is very well aware that the best strategy against those flying tiles is to stand in one spot and swing your sword wildly. Not only do you have those turrets to take off your health if you do stand within range of them, but there are Wallmasters that drop down. And you know what? You have to evade all these tiles and kill the Wallmaster or make it just disappear to make a chest appear. I think it's a key in the regular game, but as we saw there was not anything spectacular there. Your task in here is to light the 4 torches. It can be a bit of a rush and you will need the fire rod because you're on a fairly tight time limit. Not sure. Just damage boost. Going quiet because I'm concentrating. Down, down. Come on. Just made it. That could have gone so wrong. And you'll have to do some pretty tricky manoeuvring with bombs. Sometimes you can manage to get it to go right onto the far edge and not actually move on the conveyor belt. But you basically need the very edge of the explosion to hit it. Not sure how that works. Some messing with physics, to be honest. But that's the strenuous part over. The key to Misery Mire we don't need. There we go. Not that it's particularly useful, but we have the big key of Ganon's tower. So if I'm going to be honest, we can just walk back and try to get the... I don't think we can walk back and get the chest. Instead, there are worse things to come. So the strenuous part was over. I was fibbing. This room, assuming I don't run off the edge and make life worse for me, because if I do, I have to go back out and in again. The floor starts crumbling after a while. Pick up the pot. Probably could have just cheated my way through that in the past. I've usually just tried to tough it out. Does make it a little easier if you cheese some things with the cave. Careful manoeuvring is needed to get through here. While I was going and doing the last minute item cleanup, I was pondering the music in this game. It did introduce some notable themes. For example, Ganon's theme and Zelda's Lullaby originate from here, but Zelda's Lullaby is mainly used for all the maidens, really. I don't think there was too much more. It was really Link's Awakening where the game started to pick up in terms of music. Link's Awakening was the first game to have a unique theme for each dungeon. They were mostly variations on a theme. I completely forgot about that, to be honest. But they did at least have distinct themes. Alright, you might notice that my health and magic do look a little different. I've decided to do this section again. My commentary got a bit awkward. I kept going off topic, which is a little unfortunate. Especially since I actually had some good topics in there. When I was doing my item cleanup, I was thinking about the music from this game. While this game didn't contribute a lot in terms of soundtracks, it did introduce a few important things. In terms of gameplay elements, it introduced quite a few along the way. And it got me thinking about the nature of old games. I love A Link to the Past. It's one of my all-time favourite titles, as I said in the introductory episode. But you note that as you go along and technology evolves, a lot of those classic games do start to seem a little awkward in a sense. There we go. Doesn't bode well for the rest of this, but for example, Super Mario 64, a game I very much love. It looks a bit awkward by the standards of today. In fact, it looks a lot awkward. The graphics are very, very blocky, and the camera is said to be more dangerous than any of Bowser's troops. Does it make it a bad game, though? I don't think so, because of the nature of the game itself. Basically, that was the best they had at the time. It was groundbreaking. 3D gaming was pretty much in its infancy, and you could still get a few things wrong. As we saw with the Bubsy 3D game, which basically crashed so hard into the polygon ceiling, it left Bubsy as a messy smear there. Super Mario 64 managed to succeed. It made a major impact on the industry. But it's worth noting that everything Super Mario 64 has done has been copied by a range of other titles. Also worth noting, that camera is probably more dangerous than Bowser's troops could ever be. But here's the thing, somebody had to do that. Somebody had to make that start. Because if you don't have that slightly janky camera that screws you over most of the time, then you don't have 3D gaming cameras, basically. A lot of those games are essentially the foundations of gaming as we know it. It's like A Link to the Past. This is fairly old. It's a bit awkward compared to some of the other games because certain elements are particularly different. It established a lot, but it also does its own thing at times. If I'm going to be honest, Link's Awakening is a bigger codifier for many elements of the series. But without A Link to the Past, building a lot of foundations for what the Zelda series could be after Zelda 2 proved fairly unusual, you wouldn't have games like Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. Ocarina of Time established what 3D Zelda would be. But because what it's done has reappeared so many times, it feels, well, it doesn't feel as accomplished now as it did then. Let's compare it to Majora's Mask, for example. Debate will rage about which one is better, but while I agree Ocarina of Time set a lot of foundations for the series proper, and indeed had a big impact on 3D gaming, I think Majora's Mask will have a slightly better legacy on account of the fact it remains fresh. It's such a different game, it goes outside the series traditions so much that it makes its own identity, does its own thing, and stays fairly separate from Ocarina of Time. And because it's so different, because it's not always trying to copy Ocarina of Time and is capable of doing its own thing, it doesn't feel like everything else is trying to copy it. It feels like it has its own identity and will always keep that, whereas Ocarina of Time has its flaws laid bare more readily due to the fact that what it's done has been copied so much. I don't think that makes it a bad game though. It's just the way technology has gone. You need those foundations. It's like professional athletes who played in earlier eras. The notable Test cricketer, Sir Don Bradman, only played 52 Test matches, 80 innings, and his total of 6,996 runs isn't that much when you consider the massive run scorers of today who can play 100 Tests easily. International travel has made Test match cricket so much easier to organise. But then you actually look at what Bradman did for the game. The massive impact he had with his tremendous run scoring capability. His average, which is runs scored per completed innings, was 99.94, just under 100 runs each innings, which, for those not familiar with Test cricket, is pretty impressive. I can't quite find the appropriate parallel for American sport because I'm not very knowledgeable about American sport. But just because some of Bradman's stats don't stack up with the modern game doesn't mean he's a bad player, far from it. It just means that the era in which he played was different. And basically the technology in the era of Ocarina of Time, in the era of A Link to the Past, was different. So a lot of those older games that have a few flaws do deserve a bit of a break as far as I'm concerned. Acknowledge them for what they are, for what they did at the time, and you'll find some pretty impressive games. I mean, bad games are bad games, don't get me wrong. There are terrible ones in every era. But just because technology has moved on, it doesn't necessarily make a game bad. And I'm always going to appreciate A Link to the Past because of things like that. Because what it did was pretty monumental for the series. I still consider it the best in my eyes because it sort of set everything up. I do, however, believe that Breath of the Wild is providing a very good direction for the series to go. Harking back to the original gives us a range of new ideas to try out. And while I will admit I was definitely not enamoured with the breakable weapon system and will rant about it at length, I've already done one major rant about Triforce Heroes, so I'm not going to plague you with it, I do think it has a lot of really good ideas. It's establishing a lot that will help the series move on. Of course, everyone's opinion will differ. And that's something I like. The fact that we can have all these fascinating different ideas. And to end things on a sour note, here's Moldor, who went down a lot easier this time. And the very last chest in the game. We already got the mirror shield, so this is... Please let it be, please let it be. It's the last hard piece. To be honest, I really wanted to end it on 20 rupees, just to keep that running gag going. But we're close to the end. After screwing up all my ideas, not being able to get the words out properly, we can finally go and fight Agony. I'm just going to kill these guys, and then we're clear. I've basically taken the quick route because I've flubbed a few too many takes and I'm getting a little frustrated with myself. But in the end, I would say enjoy your favourite games as you wish. Be respectful about people's opinions, as always. But show off what's good about your favourite games, and that's why I'm doing this. I've enjoyed the randomizers, and I've been very much looking forward to showing this off. And I'm really glad you came along for the journey. Anyway, to defeat Aghanim, just do the same thing you did before. You ditch the lightning bolt attack. If you're good, you can manage to hit him with a couple of blasts at once. Only the real Aghanim will shoot those blue orbs. You've got to make sure to get your positioning right though, which I'm not doing. Okay, not too troubling. One more hit and he should be down. There he is. The spectre of Ganon emerges, turning into a bat. And out of nowhere comes a duck. The greatest chase scene in history, ladies and gentlemen. A bat hotly pursued by a duck. Alright. We're fully kitted out, and I'm ready to end this. Let's go. Ganon actually has a really good range of dialogue. It's impressive just how much is there. He's had all sorts of interesting little tidbits. He might quote song lyrics. He might have all sorts of interesting facts. Not sure exactly how he knows about Impa. I think she's mentioned in the manual, but Impa herself does not appear in this game. Ganon will teleport around and launch those powerful fire attacks. You can just go in full ham and just hack at him, which I'm going to because I'm probably running out of patience. Also, watch out for those flaming bats. You can get caught in that attack during cutscenes and take repeated damage. I think it happened to me during one failed recording session. Wait. Okay, how did I wind up there? I think I'm probably beyond caring by this point. I will note, this doorway, I didn't actually know where it led most of the time. Somehow I had managed to avoid falling off. It was only playing the randomizers I actually realised where it went. Look, I'll get this guy off my case. I'll go and heal up and then we'll rematch it. It's going to be a fitting end to the whole thing, really. I think that dialogue is referencing Zelda 2. Basically, yes, this is summing up the whole adventure. We had some fantastic moments. Everything started off really well. Then it turned into a desperate scramble just trying to find the right item in order to proceed. So things were really good. I don't think we could top the first episode and everything we found there. If you're quick enough, you won't be able to launch too many attacks. will tell you where to find the silver arrows. Switch to the fire rod and miss. Light those torches. Quickly switch to the silver arrows and shoot him. Quickly top up. I'm trying to stand away from the edge so that I don't get hurt and knocked off the edge. Oh, come on, I hit him! Sometimes you can get 2 hits in with the arrows. And if you're quick, you can hit him again with the sword, but I didn't manage to. This is the last one. Switch, and got him! A few high points and a lot of fiascos. This last bit was probably a microcosm of the whole adventure. Well, time to make a wish. That part always references one of the Lord of the Rings books. It is the Return of the King in the original game, so they just rolled with it. And he thankfully didn't die. In the regular game, he does when the troops come to the Sanctuary and steal Zelda. He just sort of was there. And I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. As I said earlier, everybody calls Shamalama Ding Dong something different. The vulture population has finally resurrected itself. I mean, they kind of were too dumb to live. I mean, they just sort of charged head-on into an explosion. Those two you might have seen wandering around Death Mountain have finally escaped the Dark World. Still chasing each other. Damn right he's cheap. I mean, I looted his pockets and only got 5 rupees out of it. Not that I actually did that. I mean, if he actually asks, no, I didn't. Wavy coin. I'm actually happy to see you, King Zora. Last time, I would have had to pay 500 rupees for 10 arrows. This time, the Quake Medallion was genuinely useful. And yes, the witch did buy drugs. So the lumberjacks, who we didn't actually see. It's heavy cutting away trees with those big grins on their faces. I'm not sure what that refers... Ah, yes. I think it refers to the item you dig up with the shovel. Because we only got 20 rupees out of that, as far as I know. And Venus, the Queen of the Fairies, is always referenced with a line from the song. I know Bananarama did a version, I can't remember who did the original one, and it annoys me. As for the breadsmith bit, it does kind of look like a baguette. This dialogue also changes based on what the bug catching kit has. Like I said, there's a lot of work that's gone into this. And it honestly has been a joy sharing the adventure with you, even if I've got a bit frustrated with myself at times. It's been an interesting project you're at here. Yes, I am pretty much spruiking myself by this point. it's been an experiment. It is sort of just sort of breaking ground and trying things out. I think I've learned a lot from this adventure. You might see at the top there a Kookman, which is what you get if you use the magic powder on a buzz block. Yep, the couch cash, the 20 rupees. We did it. We saved Hyrule. And now, we'll let the credits roll. Hey guys, Red2 speaking from Post. Thank you very much for joining me on this little adventure. I'm glad you all came along. I've learned a lot from this and hope to keep applying it in future projects. I'll be organising another journey back in time soon, a scenic tour of Johto in Pokemon Gold version. Come along on a tour of Pokemon as it was when I was growing up. See how much the series has evolved, and in general enjoy a nostalgia trip. I hope to see you all there.